Hi everybody, Amber here for the Peoria Public Library. I know usually when I'm doing a video for the library, it's going to be on local history or crochet because that's where most people know me from. But what you may not know about me is that I'm also a very avid craft person. I like to do some quilting, as you can see here, and I also love to crochet. Crochet was my first major craft that I did, and I've stuck with it for a long time. And during this COVID shutdown, I have made a lot of blankets in my spare time to just have something to do and get something done. In fact, during this very long shutdown, I have made a number of blankets that will eventually go to charity when I am able to send them out to various organizations. So I'm very excited about that. But what I thought I'd do today is show you a video on making what is called a round ripple. I have made, no joke, a ton of them in the past few weeks. They're a very easy, very simple pattern. They work up a bit like this. I made this one with just yarn that I had laying around my house. So it's not quite finished, but it will be probably tonight. So I'm very excited to share this pattern with you, and hopefully if you have any questions I can answer them. Now I will say that I'm not planning to do a tutorial on exactly how to do the stitches, because we're going to presuppose that you know how to do some of the basic stitches. Second, I will let you know that I am left-handed, and when you see this video and I show you some of the stitching and how to do it, it will be left-handed. I don't crochet right-handed, that's not me. So let's start with a supply list of things. First of all, you're going to need yarn. I have been using just basic Red Heart Super Saver yarn, which you can buy in any craft store, any Walmart, any Joann's. A variety of places carry just basic 4-ply worsted weight acrylic yarn. The reason I use acrylic yarn is because it's inexpensive, it comes in a lot of colors, and it doesn't stain, it doesn't shrink, and once you wash it up a few times, it's super soft. The other thing you will need is you will need a crochet hook. I have a variety here, I only need one. I would recommend, if you don't already have a crochet hook, that you stick between an H size and a J size. All crochet hooks are or should be numbered and lettered. An H hook is a 5mm hook, and a J hook is a 6mm hook. The I, of course, goes in between at a 5.5. The style does not really matter. As you can see, I have a variety between a Susan Bates here that has an ergonomic grip, also a Susan Bates with a bamboo handle, to a completely, I think this is a rosewood one. This one lights up, and this is just a standard metal crochet hook. Any of them are fine. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I use an H because that's what I've used for years and that's what I've liked. The reason you want to use those is because it's going to give you the right size stitch for this. You can use bigger or smaller. It will be harder to work with because either the stitches will be so big that you're going to end up with a lot of holes in it, which if that's what you want, go ahead, or it will be so tight that you'll have a lot of trouble stitching the blanket, and it'll take longer to do because the stitches will be so small. The other thing you're going to need is some kind of scissors or snips. Again, doesn't matter, it's whatever you have handy. I usually carry around a standard pair of scissors in every bag that I have, so I have a variety of that. And then, like I said, the yarn. Probably for the sizing you're going to need 3 to 5 skeins of yarn, depending how big you want it and how many colors you want. That is entirely up to you. If you have a bunch of yarn that's been laying around your house from projects that you've had left over, that's perfect for this project. So I have some sample pieces that we are going to use. The 3 stitches that you'll need to know how to do are the magic ring, which is our starting stitch, a chain stitch, and a double crochet. Okay, in order to do this, I had to change cameras. So what we're going to start with is called a magic ring stitch. Now, you can do a different kind of stitch to start your center if you're not that comfortable with learning new stitches and you've done, say, something that started from the center where you did a 3 or 4 chains and went back to the first stitch. You can do that. I like to do magic ring because you can actually tighten the center up and you won't see a hole in the center. So to do a magic ring, you want to take your yarn and create like you're going to make a knot out of it. Then, as I get my fingers lined up here, you want to do a chain 3 to the center, and then you're going to do 11 double crochet stitches into the center of the ring. If you did not leave enough of a tail here, because you need that tail in the end, go ahead and give it a little bit of tug to tighten up your circle a bit, but don't make it too tight. Make sure you can still keep a finger's bit of room in there, maybe a little bit more so that you can actually get your hook in without stabbing yourself 3 billion times. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I want to get to 12. So we have 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now we have a little crescent fan of stitches, and this is where the magic ring comes into play. We give that little string a bit more of a tug, and now we can easily turn this into a center circle for our round ripple, and there's very little hole in the center. To finish this round off, you want to go into the top chain of that chain 3 and do what's called a slip stitch, where all you do is pull the yarn through both loops on the hook. And so we finished our first round, 12 stitches. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, so let's move on to the second round. Now, for this, you are not required to change yarn every row. I'm only doing this because I want you guys to be able to see the different rows individually. So here I have a second color, and if you do decide to do a different row every color, you are going to have to bury your yarn or hide it or tie it together. I like to bury my yarn, it makes it easier. So from where we slip stitch, we're going to go back into that same stitch, and I like to, since I do like to bury my yarn, I'm going to go ahead and put the 2 strings that are left over just on top. So I should have 4 strands going over the top here. Then I'm going to put the new yarn on the underside and come through and then start a new chain 3. Then I'm going to go back into that same stitch, that same top stitch of the chain 3 previous, and do a double crochet. And I'm going to do that all the way around until I end up with 24 stitches, and it looks something like that. See how I have 2 stitches in each one? All right, now we're going to go on to the next row, which is the V-stitch. This is what creates the points and valleys of a round ripple blanket. So again, going into this top chain 3, we're going to add this color, or if you're just doing the same color, you just go into the top 3 and do a chain 3. Then we're going to skip that second stitch right here and do a double crochet into the 3rd stitch. From there we do 2 chains and then go back into that same stitch, creating what's known as a V-stitch. From there you skip stitch 4, go into stitch 5 and do the same thing. A double crochet, 2 chains, and another double crochet. You want to do this all the way around until you get to the last stitch. So here's stitch 24. We're going to skip that, but go back into the first stitch, which was that chain 3, and we're going to double crochet into that, do our 2 chains, and we are going to slip stitch that to the top of our double crochet of our first full V. All right, so there we have 12 V stitches, and this creates the beginning, like I said, of your round ripples. Moving on, this will be what is the pattern that increases all of your rows. So I have my next color, and I'm going to go into the center of the V, add my color here, and this time I'm going to do, from the center of the V, a chain 3, if the yarn cooperates, then a double crochet, 2 chains, and then 2 more double crochets. Whenever you're doing a chain 3, it's kind of like a faux double crochet. It's what allows you to get room from the previous row into position, but once it's there, it doesn't look much different than a double crochet. So moving on to the second V, we are going to do, and notice I'm going to carry the yarn across the back so that I can bury the threads. I'm going to do a double crochet, a second double crochet, 2 chains, and 2 more double crochets to continue my pattern. Once we're done going all the way around, it should look something like this. Keep in mind, if you're right-handed, it may look a little backwards because, again, right-handed looks slightly different from left. So for the next row, we are not going to do an increase. If you do an increase on every row, it will have a tendency to tilt slightly. I've learned this in the past, so having done this for a number of years, I looked up how to avoid that, and this was a recommendation made. This is a row where we're going to kind of keep things the same, just spread it out a bit differently. So for this row, we're going to, we've slip stitched from the last row into that chain 3. So we're going to start with that second double crochet, or that first double crochet of that row, and we're going to double crochet right into it. We're going to double crochet into that chain 2V, and we're going to do our 2 chains, double crochet into the V again, and then go to that first double crochet on the other side. And so we've created another row with 2 increase, this goes 1, 2, and 2. We continue that way around. We're going to skip these 2 stitches right here. That helps create the valleys of the round ripple. So we're going to create our next row. And as you continue along, when you make your next row, again, skipping the 2 valley pieces, in order to do the next row and to continue on beyond that, you're going to continue to increase 2 rows and then keep the 3rd row the same as the previous. What this roughly equals out to is that on the rows that you are doing an even amount of stitches, you do that row twice. So you do the 2 twice, you do the 4 twice, you do the 6 twice. Now for me, when I make my juvenile size blankets, I stop when I get to my second round of 20 stitches in each line that goes up to the peak. So this one is a 2 right here, this dark blue, and this Caribbean blue is a 2 as well. But once I get up to about 20,
and I do my secondary row so that I don't tilt my ends, then I stop. I have gone as far as going up to my second round of 30. That makes the more adult sized blankets. Something like that I gave to my mother for Christmas. So it's entirely up to you. It's completely customizable as far as how far you want to go with it. I have done, like I said, several of these, and each one is distinctly different, and I've enjoyed doing them all. So once you finish with this round and you slip stitch, let's show you where we can go from there.
All right, as I said, these are completely customizable as to how big you want to make them, how many rows you want to do, and even how many rows you want to do of each color. The one I was showing you how to do, I did change colors every row to show the distinction between each. But this one, which I've shown you and I said I will finish tonight, has several where I do more than one row. It really just depended on how much yarn I had left of that particular color. In this case, I was out and about the other day with my mom. We were doing a bit of just driving around to escape things, and I got pretty far on finishing this particular row and I ran out of yarn. So I will be finishing that off with this tonight, and then a couple more rows, and this blanket will be done and ready to go off to a child in need. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I know it's a long video. I know it was rushed, and I know there will be people that have questions. Perfectly fine. If you want to learn more about crochet, there are a lot of video tutorials that you can find online. We also have a lot of books in the library on crochet, so maybe use that curbside pickup to see about learning more if you're more of a visual picture learner. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment, and I will try to answer them as best as I can without being right with you. We sure do miss you guys at the library, and we hope to be back all together soon. Have a good day. Bye.